The Interstellar Alliance Council chamber was an architectural marvel, its dome-like structure suspended in zero gravity above the shimmering surface of Urion Prime. Inside, the vast hall buzzed with quiet conversations and the hum of alien machinery, a testament to the diversity of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Rows of seats curved upward into tiers, each occupied by representatives of various species, their forms ranging from towering insectoids to shimmering aquatic beings encased in hover tanks. At the center of the chamber, a raised platform served as the focal point, where matters of galactic importance were debated and decided. Captain Nathan Rourke stood on that platform, dwarfed by the grandiosity of his surroundings. Clad in Earth's formal diplomatic uniform, he cut an imposing figure, his sharp green eyes scanning the council with measured determination. Nathan's composure was a practiced art, perfected over years of diplomacy, but inside, a storm brewed. His clenched fists remained hidden at his sides, his mind replaying the images of Terra Nova's desperate transmission, the cries for help, the flames consuming homes, the sight of Xandari warships blotting out the colony's sky. The situation on Terra Nova demands immediate action, Nathan began, his voice steady but resonating through the chamber. A peaceful human colony, home to over 50,000 civilians, is under siege by the Xandari Dominion. If we do not intervene now, it will be too late. A murmur rippled through the council, alien voices clicking and buzzing in languages Nathan barely recognized. On one of the upper tiers, Counselor Rinal of the Xerith Coalition, a skeletal figure with translucent skin and sharp, glowing eyes, leaned forward, her tone sharp. "Captain Rourke, you bring this matter to the Alliance as though it is of universal concern. Yet Terra Nova is a human colony, is it not? Why should this council prioritize your people's plight over countless others?" Nathan's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone calm. "Counselor, the Xandari Dominion's aggression isn't limited to humanity. They've already expanded their reach into neutral sectors, attacking trade routes and annexing planets. Terra Nova is not just a human issue, it's a symptom of a larger threat. Ignoring this now endangers all of us." Another voice chimed in, this one deep and rumbling, belonging to Ambassador Quarix of the Jorath Empire. His reptilian scales shimmered under the chamber's dim lights as he spoke. "Earth's position in this alliance is tenuous at best. Your people are newcomers, barely a century into interstellar politics. Perhaps this aggression stems from your own actions. The Xandari are known to retaliate against perceived threats." Nathan's calm facade cracked, his eyes narrowing. "Retaliate? Terra Nova is an agricultural colony with no military presence. Its only threat is providing food for nearby systems. If that constitutes a provocation, then every world in this council is at risk." Quarix gave a dismissive wave of his clawed hand. "Hyperbole does not strengthen your case, Captain." Nathan looked around the chamber, scanning the faces, or equivalents, of the council members. Their indifference gnawed at him. To them, humanity was a curiosity, a species that had clawed its way onto the galactic stage too quickly for their liking. Earth's rapid technological advancements, fueled by necessity after centuries of isolation, were seen as both impressive and unsettling. He took a deep breath, letting his frustration simmer below the surface. "Counselors, I understand humanity's position here. We are new, we are untested, but we are also not blind to the patterns of history. The Xandari Dominion thrives on apathy. They attack the weak, knowing others will look away. Today, it's Terra Nova. Tomorrow, it could be your worlds." Counselor Litha of the Arkellan conglomerate, a crystalline being whose form refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, responded with a measured tone. "Captain Rourke, while your concerns are noted, this council cannot commit resources based on speculative threats. Humanity must address this matter independently." Independently. The word echoed in Nathan's mind, each syllable a blow. He had come here knowing the odds were against him, but hearing the finality in their voices made his chest tighten. He glanced toward the small section reserved for Earth's representatives, where Lieutenant Kara Singh, his tactical advisor, sat silently. Her sharp eyes met his, a subtle nod of encouragement passing between them. Nathan straightened, his voice hardening. If the Alliance chooses inaction, humanity will remember this moment, not as the day we asked for help, but as the day we stood alone. The chamber grew silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Without waiting for a response, Nathan turned and stepped off the platform. His boots echoed against the polished floor as he walked toward the exit, his back straight despite the heavy burden pressing down on him. Kara caught up to him in the corridor outside, her expression as controlled as ever, though her tone betrayed her frustration. That went about as well as expected. Nathan smirked faintly, though there was no humor in it. You mean they told us to fend for ourselves and politely slammed the door in our faces? Yes, textbook success. Kara shook her head, her dark hair pulled tight into a practical braid. They don't see the bigger picture. The Xandari aren't just a human problem. Their expansion will destabilize the entire region. They don't care, Nathan said bluntly. We're the newcomers, the outsiders. To them, we're not worth the risk. They reached a private chamber, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the council hall. Nathan activated a holographic display, revealing a real-time feed of Terra Nova. Fires raged across the colony, Xandari ships hovering ominously in the sky. Civilians scrambled to escape, their movements chaotic and desperate. We don't have time to debate, Nathan said, his voice low but firm. The Alliance won't help us, so we'll do what we've always done. Kara folded her arms, her expression sharpening. Take action. Nathan nodded. Earth's fleet is ready. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Kara raised an eyebrow. And the Council? They won't take kindly to you bypassing their authority. Nathan's smirk returned, this time with a hint of defiance. Let them file their complaints. By the time they finish their paperwork, we'll have saved Terra Nova. Kara chuckled softly, the tension between them easing for a moment. What's the plan? Nathan's gaze returned to the holographic display, his mind already racing with possibilities. We hit them hard and fast. Earth's hidden fleet was built for moments like this. The Xandari think they're dealing with a defenseless colony. They have no idea what's coming. As the image of Terra Nova burned in his mind, Nathan felt a familiar fire ignite in his chest. The Alliance might see humanity as insignificant, but they had underestimated the one thing that had always defined his people, their unyielding determination. This wasn't just about saving a colony. It was about proving that humanity had a place among the stars, and Nathan Rourke would make sure the galaxy never forgot it. The Resolute, Earth's flagship, and the pride of its hidden fleet, floated in the shadows of Luna's dark side. Its sleek, angular design reflected humanity's ingenuity and determination, bristling with state-of-the-art weaponry and cloaked in advanced stealth systems. This was no mere showpiece. It was a weapon forged in the crucible of Earth's survival, a testament to what humanity could achieve when pushed to the brink. Nathan Rourke stood on the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the Resolute's sleek hull as it glided silently past the viewport. Around him, a flurry of activity filled the command center buried beneath the lunar surface. Holographic displays projected tactical maps, ship schematics, and real-time feeds from Terra Nova, where the situation was growing worse by the minute. Lieutenant Kara Singh approached, her tablet glowing with fresh data. Fleet readiness reports are coming in. All ships are operational, though the crews are still green. Most haven't seen actual combat. Nathan glanced at her, his expression steady. They'll see plenty soon enough. What about the colony? Kara's expression darkened. She swiped her tablet, and a new image appeared on the main display. It showed Terra Nova's surface, its once thriving settlements now marred by smoke and fire. Civilians scrambled to load onto evacuation shuttles as Xandari hovercraft prowled the skies, their weapons firing indiscriminately at anything that moved. Orbital defenses are down, Kara reported. Ground forces are holding what they can, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. Without intervention, they won't last another day. Nathan's jaw tightened. He had seen these images before, not from Terra Nova, but from Earth's own history. The devastation, the fear, the helplessness. It was a cycle that had repeated itself too many times. But this time, humanity wasn't defenseless. "We move now," Nathan said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "If we wait, there won't be anyone left to save." Kara nodded. "I'll notify the fleet." As she turned to leave, the door to the command center slid open, and Dr. Elias Ford entered. The chief engineer of Earth's hidden fleet was a wiry man with silver hair that seemed perpetually disheveled, his sharp eyes scanning the room with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. He carried a data pad filled with technical schematics, which he immediately thrust toward Nathan. "We need to talk," Elias said, his voice brisk. "This plan of yours, it's bold, I'll give you that. But if you're planning to use the Eradicator protocol, we need to have a serious discussion." Nathan took the data pad, skimming the diagrams of Earth's most advanced weapon systems. The Eradicator was the fleet's deadliest asset, a network of AI-controlled drones armed with high-yield plasma charges, capable of crippling entire fleets in coordinated strikes. It was a game-changer, but one that carried risks. "What's the problem?" Nathan asked. "The problem," Elias said, gesturing toward the display of Terra Nova, "is collateral damage. The drones aren't perfect, especially under this kind of stress. There's a real chance they could target civilian areas." Nathan's gaze remained on the data pad, his mind racing through the possibilities. He understood Elias's concerns, but the situation left little room for caution. If they didn't use every tool at their disposal, Terra Nova would fall. "We'll limit their deployment to orbital targets," Nathan said. "The drones won't touch the surface unless we lose all other options." Elias frowned, clearly unconvinced. "That's still a gamble, Nathan. These aren't simulations. If something goes wrong, it'll be on your hands." Nathan met his gaze, his expression hardening. "It's already on my hands. Now get those drones prepped." Elias hesitated, then sighed and nodded. "They'll be ready." As Elias left, Kara returned, her expression grim but focused. "The fleet is ready to deploy, waiting on your orders." Nathan turned to the main display, where the Resolute was now joined by Earth's other warships, their sleek designs a stark contrast to the utilitarian vessels of the Xandari. The fleet had been a well-kept secret, developed in the shadows while humanity outwardly presented itself as a fledgling interstellar species. Now, it was time to reveal their hand. "Send the order," Nathan said. "All ships to Terra Nova. Maximum burn." The command center buzzed with activity as Kara relayed the orders. Nathan watched the display as the fleet began to move, their engines igniting in synchronized bursts of light. For a brief moment, he allowed himself a flicker of hope. They were outnumbered, but they weren't outmatched. The Xandari had no idea what was coming. Hours later, Nathan stood on the Resolute's bridge, the hum of its engines a comforting constant beneath his feet. The ship's interior was sleek and efficient, with holographic displays lining the walls and a crew of officers working diligently at their stations. Outside, the darkness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the faint glow of Terra Nova in the distance. Kara joined him at the command console, her eyes scanning the tactical readouts. "The Xandari fleet has taken up orbit around the colony. 15 ships, including one mothership." "And our forces?" Nathan asked. 10 ships total," Kara said. "But our stealth capabilities give us the element of surprise. We'll have one shot to hit them before they regroup." Nathan nodded, his mind already calculating the odds. The Xandari ships were larger and more heavily armed, but their tactics relied on overwhelming force and intimidation. Humanity's fleet was smaller but designed for agility and precision. It was a gamble, but one he was willing to take. "Deploy the drones," Nathan ordered. "Have them target the smaller ships first. We'll save the mothership for last." Kara relayed the command, and moments later, the Resolute's hangar bays opened, releasing a swarm of eradicator drones into the void. The small, sleek machines moved with eerie precision, their plasma charges glowing faintly as they accelerated toward the Xandari fleet. The bridge fell silent as the first wave of drones struck. Explosions lit up the darkness, the smaller Xandari ships disintegrating under the coordinated assault. The Resolute and its sister ships followed suit, their weapons blazing as they moved to engage the remaining enemy forces. "Direct hit on their forward line," Kara reported. "They're scrambling to regroup." "Keep the pressure on," Nathan said. "We can't give them time to adapt." The Xandari responded with ferocity, their ships unleashing a torrent of plasma fire. The Resolute's shields flared as the bolts struck, causing the ship to shudder under the impact. Nathan gripped the console, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Damage report," he called out. "Shields at 70%, an officer replied. "No breaches yet." "Good," Nathan said. "Stay on target." As the battle raged on, the Xandari mothership loomed in the distance, its massive hull bristling with weapons. Nathan knew that taking it down would be their greatest challenge. But for now, the tide was turning in their favor. "Captain," Kara said, her voice urgent. "Incoming transmission from the colony. They're holding, but they can't hold much longer." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Then we finish this. All ships focus fire on the mothership. Let's show them what humanity can do." The Resolute surged forward, leading the charge as the fleet prepared for its final assault. For the first time in the battle, Nathan felt a glimmer of hope. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but they were human, and that meant they didn't know how to quit. The skies above Terra Nova burned with the fiery glow of destruction. Smoke billowed from the colony's central city, its once thriving structures reduced to crumbling ruins under the relentless assault of Xandari warships. Civilians scrambled for safety, their faces etched with panic and despair as they raced toward evacuation shuttles. In the distance, the booming echoes of explosions and the high-pitched whine of alien hovercraft filled the air, a grim symphony of chaos. On the surface, the colony's meager defenses fought valiantly. Human soldiers in battle-worn exosuits fired bursts of plasma at advancing Xandari ground forces, their weapons glowing faintly against the thick haze of smoke and ash. The enemy, towering insectoid beings with segmented armor and razor-sharp limbs, moved with terrifying efficiency. Their screeches of communication pierced the air as they coordinated their attacks, overwhelming the human defenders with sheer numbers. Lieutenant Caleb Mendez, the officer in charge of the ground defense, crouched behind a makeshift barricade of overturned vehicles and debris. His exosuits targeting HUD flickered erratically, the colony's failing power grid affecting even their basic systems. Despite the odds, Caleb's voice remained steady as he barked orders into his comm. "Alpha Squad, hold the line. Bravo, cover the civilians. Get them to the shuttles now." He leaned out from cover and fired a plasma bolt, striking a Xandari soldier square in the chest. The alien crumpled to the ground, its carapace hissing as it burned. "We can't let them take the landing zone." Nearby, a young soldier barely out of training clutched his weapon with trembling hands. "Lieutenant, we're running out of ammo. We can't hold much longer." Caleb glanced at the soldier, his jaw tightening. "We hold the line, Private. Reinforcements are coming." The soldier's eyes widened in disbelief. "Reinforcements? From where?" Before Caleb could answer, a deafening roar shook the ground. One of the colony's few remaining turrets exploded in a ball of fire, sending shards of metal and debris raining down. The Xandari war machines, a trio of massive spider-like walkers, marched forward, their heavy plasma cannons annihilating everything in their path. Caleb's heart sank. The turrets had been their last line of heavy defense. Now, only a few squads of exhausted soldiers stood between the Xandari and the colony's remaining civilians. His comm crackled with static as he issued a desperate plea. "This is Lieutenant Mendez to any Allied forces in the sector. We are under heavy attack. Civilians are still evacuating, but we can't hold the landing zone much longer. If anyone's out there, we need help. Now." Above the planet, the Xandari fleet maintained its iron grip on the orbital space. Their sleek warships hovered menacingly, firing bursts of energy that crippled any resistance from the colony's battered orbital platforms. The Xandari mothership, an enormous vessel resembling a jagged obsidian shard, loomed at the center of the formation, its energy signatures glowing ominously. On the bridge of the mothership, Commander Kalthas observed the battle with cold precision. The Xandari leader was a towering figure, his insectoid features framed by a jagged crest of bone-like spines. His multiple eyes scanned the holographic displays, which showed the colony's defenses crumbling with every passing moment. "Resistance is weakening," Kalthas hissed to his second-in-command, a smaller Xandari with iridescent scales. "Their forces will break soon." The second-in-command clicked its mandibles in agreement. "And the civilians?" "They will be subjugated," Kalthas replied. "Those who resist will be eliminated. Terra Nova will serve as a warning to any who dare oppose the Dominion." A signal chimed, drawing Kalthas's attention to a new display. It showed a swarm of human evacuation shuttles rising from the planet's surface, their engines straining as they climbed toward the relative safety of orbit. Kalthas's mandibles curled into a cruel approximation of a grin. "Target the shuttles," he ordered. "Let their survivors spread the tale of humanity's failure." Back on the surface, Caleb watched in horror as the Xandari walkers advanced, their plasma cannons charging for another devastating volley. The landing zone was exposed, and the civilians, hundreds of them, were still loading onto the last few shuttles. "We need air support," Caleb shouted into his comm, knowing full well there was none. The colony's few remaining aircraft had been destroyed in the opening hours of the attack. His mind raced, searching for a solution, any solution, as the walkers prepared to fire. Then, the sky changed. Out of the smoky haze, a beam of blinding light cut through the atmosphere, striking one of the Xandari walkers with surgical precision. The massive machine erupted in a fireball, its legs collapsing as its scorched hull crumpled to the ground. A second beam followed, obliterating another walker in a flash of energy. The third walker hesitated, its cannons swiveling upward to search for the source of the attack. Caleb's heart leapt as he recognized the distinct roar of starship engines. A sleek angular vessel descended through the clouds, its hull glowing faintly with energy shields. It was the Resolute, Earth's flagship, leading the hidden fleet into battle. Above, the remaining Xandari warships reeled as Earth's fleet emerged from stealth. The Resolute and its sister ships fired a coordinated volley of plasma torpedoes, each strike lighting up the darkness of space with brilliant explosions. The Xandari formation fractured under the assault, their smaller vessels scrambling to regroup. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Nathan Rourke stood with calm determination, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. The holographic map showed the Xandari fleet reeling from the surprise attack, their once cohesive formation now a chaotic tangle of panicked movements. "Focus fire on their support ships," Nathan ordered. "Keep the mothership isolated." Lieutenant Kara Singh, standing at the weapons console, grinned as she targeted another Xandari ship. "With pleasure, Captain." The Resolute's main cannon fired, its energy beam slicing through a Xandari frigate. The enemy ship exploded in a cascade of debris, its wreckage scattering across the battlefield. Around the Resolute, Earth's fleet pressed the attack, their advanced weaponry tearing through the Xandari ranks. On the ground, Caleb watched as the final Xandari walker collapsed under the Resolute's firepower. The tide of the battle had shifted, and for the first time in hours, hope flickered in his chest. "Evacuation complete," a voice crackled through his communication. "All shuttles are away," Caleb exhaled, relief washing over him. "All units fall back to the secondary perimeter. Let Earth's fleet finish this." As the human soldiers regrouped, the skies above Terra Nova transformed into a fiery theater of war. Earth's warships engaged the Xandari mothership, their weapons hammering its shields with relentless precision. The mothership retaliated, its cannons unleashing devastating bursts of energy that rocked the Resolute. On board the Resolute, Nathan remained focused, his mind racing as he calculated the next move. The Xandari mothership was formidable, but its shields were weakening. If they could deliver one final strike, the battle would be theirs. Kara, Nathan said, his voice steady. Prepare the drones. Let's end this. The battle wasn't over, but humanity had made its presence known. Against all odds, they had taken action, and Nathan Rourke would ensure that the galaxy would never again dismiss Earth's resolve. The Resolute cut through the chaos like a knife through the void. Its sleek, angular frame glimmered against the backdrop of the embattled colony below, plasma fire and explosions lighting up the darkness. Around it, Earth's hidden fleet emerged from the shadows, a dozen warships of varying sizes and configurations. Though smaller in number than the Xandari fleet, each human vessel exuded precision and purpose, their advanced weaponry and tactics already turning the tide of the battle. Captain Nathan Rourke stood on the Resolute's bridge, his expression resolute. The tactical display before him showed the Xandari fleet in disarray, their formations fracturing under the sudden assault. Earth's fleet, using advanced cloaking technology, had struck with devastating precision, targeting the Dominion's support ships first. What had begun as a massacre was rapidly transforming into a desperate retreat. "Report," Nathan ordered, his voice calm amidst the frenzy of activity around him. Lieutenant Kara Singh, her fingers dancing over the weapons console, replied swiftly. 7 Xandari support ships destroyed, 2 more disabled. Their escorts are scrambling to regroup. The mothership's shields are holding, but they're starting to show strain. "Good," Nathan said, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. "Keep the pressure on, target their engines, cut off their ability to retreat." Kara nodded, her grin fierce. "Aye, Captain." The Resolute's main cannon fired again, sending a streak of blue energy across the battlefield. The blast struck a Xandari cruiser square in its aft section, detonating its engines in a brilliant explosion. The crippled ship drifted aimlessly, its remaining systems flickering as it was abandoned by the rest of the fleet. The Xandari mothership loomed at the center of the battlefield, a jagged monolith of obsidian-like metal bristling with weapons. On its bridge, Commander Kalthas clutched the edges of his command dais, his mandibles clicking in frustration. The human fleet had appeared from nowhere, their technology far surpassing the Dominion's expectations. What should have been a simple conquest was rapidly spiraling into disaster. "Report!" Kalthas barked, his voice a guttural hiss. A subordinate, smaller and visibly shaken, replied with a trembling tone. "Our forward line is collapsing. The humans are... Their ships are using advanced stealth and targeting systems. We can't pin them down." Kalthas's eyes narrowed, his mind racing. "Deploy all remaining fighters. Focus fire on their flagship." The order was relayed, and a swarm of Xandari fighters poured from the mothership's hangars, their sleek forms weaving through the chaos as they converged on the Resolute. The human flagship, its shields glowing faintly from sustained fire, became the focal point of the Dominion's desperate counterattack. "Fighters incoming!" Kara called out, her voice cutting through the din on the bridge. Nathan's eyes darted to the display, which now showed a wave of enemy craft closing in on their position. "Activate point defenses, focus fire on anything that gets too close." The Resolute's hull bristled with automated turrets, each one swiveling to lock onto the incoming swarm. Streams of plasma fire erupted from the ship, cutting through the Xandari fighters with ruthless efficiency. Explosions dotted the void as the enemy craft disintegrated under the onslaught. Despite the effectiveness of the defenses, the sheer number of fighters began to take its toll. The Resolute shuddered as a pair of enemy ships broke through the perimeter, their plasma cannons striking the shields with relentless fury. "Shields at 60%, an officer reported, his voice strained. Nathan's jaw tightened. "Redirect auxiliary power to the shields, keep us in the fight." Even as the Resolute absorbed the brunt of the attack, the rest of Earth's fleet moved to capitalize on the opening. The smaller human ships, nimble and heavily armed, executed precise hit-and-run maneuvers, targeting the Xandari fleet's vulnerable rear sections. The Dominion's ships, designed for brute strength rather than adaptability, struggled to counter the coordinated assault. On the surface of Terra Nova, Lieutenant Caleb Mendez and his remaining ground forces watched the battle unfold above. The sight of Earth's fleet engaging the Xandari inspired a renewed sense of hope among the defenders. Civilians huddled in makeshift shelters cheered as explosions lit up the night sky. "They're doing it," one soldier muttered, his voice filled with awe. "They're actually beating them." Caleb nodded, his eyes never leaving the sky. "They're not just beating them. They're showing the Xandari what happens when you underestimate humanity." The ground forces regrouped, securing key evacuation points and ensuring the remaining civilians were safe. Though their part in the battle was largely over, the defenders knew that every second they held the line had contributed to this moment. Back on the Resolute, Nathan issued his next command. "Deploy the drones. Have them target the mothership's weapon systems." Kara's hands flew across her console as she activated the Eradicator drones. The sleek AI-controlled machines swarmed from the Resolute's hangars, their engines humming with barely audible precision. They moved like a single entity, weaving through the battlefield as they honed in on the mothership. The first wave of drones struck the Xandari flagship with surgical precision. Explosions rippled across its hull as key weapon systems were disabled, leaving the massive ship vulnerable. The mothership retaliated with bursts of plasma fire, but the drones' speed and agility made them difficult targets. "Direct hit on their primary cannon," Kara reported, her tone triumphant. "Their return fire is weakening." "Keep up the assault," Nathan said. "This isn't over yet." The Xandari, sensing their defeat, began to shift their tactics. The remaining Dominion ships regrouped around the mothership, forming a protective perimeter. It was a desperate move, but one that forced Earth's fleet to adapt. "Kara," Nathan said, his mind racing, "can we pierce that formation?" "Not without taking heavy losses," she admitted, "but if we can draw them out—" A plan began to take shape in Nathan's mind. It was risky, but the alternatives were worse. "Order the fleet to feign a retreat. Make them think we're pulling back." Kara hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Understood." The human ships began to fall back, their weapons fire slowing as they moved away from the Xandari formation. The Dominion, emboldened by the apparent retreat, broke their defensive perimeter to pursue. "They're taking the bait," Kara said, a hint of excitement in her voice. "Good," Nathan replied. "Now turn us around and hit them with everything we've got." The Resolute and its sister ships pivoted sharply, their weapons blazing as they unleashed a devastating volley of plasma fire. The Xandari, caught off guard, scrambled to react. Their formation crumbled under the assault, leaving the mothership exposed. "Focus all fire on the mothership," Nathan commanded, his voice ringing with determination. The Resolute surged forward, leading the charge as the fleet converged on the Xandari flagship. The combined firepower of Earth's ships hammered the mothership's shields, which flickered and finally collapsed. Explosions tore through the massive vessel as its hull began to break apart. On the Xandari bridge, Commander Kalthas watched in disbelief as his flagship succumbed to the human assault. His mandibles clicked furiously, his once certain victory now reduced to ashes. "Fall back," he roared. "All remaining ships, retreat." But it was too late. The Dominion fleet, battered and broken, scattered into the void. The humans had won. As the final Xandari ship disappeared into hyperspace, cheers erupted across the Resolute's bridge. Nathan allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction, though his expression remained stoic. "Send a message to Terra Nova," he said. "Tell them the skies are clear." Kara grinned. "They'll want to hear it from you." Nathan nodded, his gaze drifting to the tactical display. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. The Xandari mothership drifted in the void, its once imposing presence marred by scorch marks and flickering lights across its jagged hull. Though still operational, the ship had suffered critical damage, and its ability to command the battlefield was waning. Yet the Dominion's forces were relentless, rallying around their flagship in a last-ditch attempt to hold the line. On board the Resolute, Captain Nathan Rourke observed the tactical display with an unflinching gaze. The human fleet had gained the upper hand, but victory was not yet secured. The Xandari's remaining forces were regrouping, and their concentrated fire was taking a toll on Earth's warships. If the mothership wasn't neutralized soon, The tide could shift again. "Status report," Nathan said, his tone calm but urgent. Lieutenant Kara Singh replied without looking up from her console. "Shields at 40%. Hull integrity is holding, but we've sustained significant damage on the port side. The fleet is maintaining formation, but the Xandari are focusing their fire on the Defiant and the Vanguard." Nathan clenched his fists. Those ships were critical to their firepower. "Order the Vanguard to fall back and regroup with the Resolute. Have the Defiant maintain its position. We need to keep the pressure on their flank." Kara nodded and relayed the orders. The bridge buzzed with activity, the crew's movements precise and efficient despite the chaos of the battle. "Captain," another officer called out, "the mothership's energy readings are spiking. It's charging its primary cannon." Nathan's eyes narrowed. The Xandari mothership's primary weapon was a devastating plasma beam capable of cutting through even the Resolute's advanced shielding. If they didn't act quickly, it could wipe out their flagship, or worse, target the vulnerable colony below. "Options?" Nathan asked, his voice sharp. Kara hesitated for a moment. "We could divert all firepower to the cannon, but that leaves us exposed to the rest of their fleet." Nathan's mind raced. The stakes were clear, and the margin for error was razor thin. Then an idea began to take shape, a plan as bold as it was dangerous. "What about an infiltration?" he asked. Kara blinked, caught off guard. "You want to board the mothership? Captain, that's suicide." Nathan's expression hardened. "Not if we move quickly. A small team could disable their weapon systems from the inside. It's risky, but it's our best shot." The bridge fell silent for a moment as the weight of his words sank in. Then Kara straightened, her resolve matching his. "I'll prep the team." "No," Nathan said firmly. "I'll lead it myself." Kara opened her mouth to protest, but Nathan held up a hand. "You're the best tactician we have, Kara. I need you here, keeping the fleet together. Trust me." Reluctantly, she nodded. "You'd better come back, Captain." Nathan allowed himself a faint smile. "I don't plan on dying today." Minutes later, Nathan stood in the Resolute's hangar, suited up in lightweight combat armor. Around him, a team of 6 hand-picked soldiers prepared for the mission, their faces a mix of determination and tension. Each carried advanced weaponry designed for close-quarters combat, their movements precise as they double-checked their gear. "Listen up," Nathan said, his voice carrying over the hum of the engines. "The Xandari mothership's primary weapon is our biggest threat right now. Our job is to get on board, disable their weapon systems, and get out. We'll be inserting via dropship under heavy fire, so stay sharp." One of the soldiers, a burly sergeant named Diaz, grinned. "Piece of cake, sir." Nathan chuckled despite the gravity of the situation. "I like your optimism, Sergeant. Let's make sure it's justified." The dropship's hatch hissed open, and the team boarded quickly. The small craft was built for speed and stealth, its exterior coated in reflective materials to evade detection. As the engines roared to life, Nathan took his seat near the cockpit, his mind already focused on the task ahead. The dropship launched from the Resolute, weaving through the battlefield with practiced agility. Xandari fighters streaked past, their plasma cannons lighting up the void. The pilot, a young but capable lieutenant, maneuvered expertly, avoiding enemy fire as they closed in on the mothership. "Approaching insertion point," the pilot called out. "Brace yourselves." The dropship latched onto the mothership's hull with a magnetic clamp, its boarding tube extending to create a sealed entry point. Nathan and his team moved quickly, their weapons raised as the hatch opened into the alien vessel. Inside, the air was thick and humid, the walls lined with pulsating conduits that glowed faintly. The Xandari ship's interior was as alien as its exterior, a labyrinth of organic and metallic structures that seemed to pulse with life. "Stay close," Nathan ordered, his voice low. "We move fast and quiet." The team advanced through the corridors, their footsteps muffled by the strange, spongy material beneath them. They encountered resistance almost immediately, Xandari soldiers armed with serrated plasma rifles. The firefight was intense but brief, Nathan's team using their superior tactics and equipment to neutralize the threat. "Area clear," Diaz reported, his voice steady despite the tension. Nathan consulted a holographic map projected from his gauntlet. The weapon control room is 2 levels down. Let's move. As they descended deeper into the ship, the resistance grew fiercer. Xandari reinforcements swarmed from every direction, their screeches echoing through the corridors. Nathan's team fought with precision, their plasma rifles cutting through the enemy ranks. Despite the odds, they pressed forward, their determination unshaken. Finally, they reached the control room, a cavernous chamber filled with glowing consoles and a massive energy core at its center. Xandari engineers scrambled to reinforce the area, but Nathan's team moved with ruthless efficiency, clearing the room in minutes. "Diaz, set the charges," Nathan ordered. The sergeant moved quickly, attaching high-yield explosives to the energy core. As he worked, the rest of the team secured the perimeter, their weapons trained on the entrances. "We've got company!" one of the soldiers shouted as more Xandari poured into the room. Nathan took cover behind a console, firing bursts of plasma at the advancing enemy. The room erupted into chaos, the sound of gunfire and explosions filling the air. Despite being outnumbered, the team held their ground, their training and resolve carrying them through. "Charges set," Diaz called out. "Timer's running, 2 minutes. Fall back to the dropship," Nathan ordered. The team fought their way back through the corridors, the countdown ticking in their helmets. The Xandari pursued relentlessly, their screeches of rage growing louder as the humans escaped. Despite the intense resistance, the team reached the dropship with seconds to spare. "Go, go, go," Nathan shouted as the hatch sealed behind them. The dropship detached from the mothership and accelerated away, its engines straining as the pilot pushed them to their limit. Behind them, the Xandari mothership erupted in a blinding explosion, its weapon systems obliterated. On the Resolute's bridge, cheers erupted as the crew watched the spectacle. Kara's voice came over the comm, filled with relief and triumph. "The mothership's down, Captain. You did it." Nathan exhaled, a rare smile breaking across his face. "Good work, team. Let's finish this." With the Xandari flagship destroyed, Earth's fleet pressed the attack, dismantling the remaining enemy forces. The tide had turned, and humanity's resolve had carried the day.